welcome to Jim's EV Adventures. I'm Jim, and we're going from point A to point B. Today, this car has more than 50,000 miles and is almost 2 years old. We're going to discuss everything that has gone on with this car for that entire 50,000 miles, including the trip that I just did to Apex, North Carolina for the Ioniq event. But more importantly, we're going to talk about the detailed operating costs for this vehicle over that 50,000 mile period. That'll include the energy costs, the DC fast charge costs, and AC charging costs for here at home, and the maintenance, including the telematics control unit that I just had to replace in this vehicle. We're going to look at the accessories that I put on this vehicle over the period of time that I've owned it, from the floor mats all the way to the little OBD2 device that I use to monitor things inside the battery systems. We're also going to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I think we all know what the ugly is going to be. And finally, we're going to talk a little bit about the future of my Bolt EUV. What am I going to do with this car? How many miles am I going to drive it? What's its purpose? Well, primarily it is my commuter. It takes me back and forth to work 4 days a week, and each round trip is about 100 miles. And I plan on driving this car until it can't be driven anymore. And you're wondering, well, how many miles is that? Well, there are examples of the Bolt EV out there with more than 350,000 miles on them. You heard me right, and I'll provide a link to the video proving that these cars are capable of pretty close to 500,000 miles and maybe more. They're going to require maintenance just like any internal combustion engine car requires. New tires, they're going to require new control arms, they're going to require things like coolant, because it does have coolant loop for the battery and the high voltage equipment, and routine maintenance, brakes, but not quite as often as you have to replace the brakes on an internal combustion engine, because 80% of the braking that I do in this car is regenerative braking. It puts no strain on the brakes whatsoever. The brake pads, I've had them checked. They look like they have about 10,000 miles on them, and I'm sitting at 50,000 miles. So sit back, relax, and let's take this trip together. And I hope you learned something along the way. See you in a few minutes to wrap everything up. Okay guys, let's get into the detailed operating cost for the Bolt EUV. I'm going to talk through this while some footage rolls through for you to view, and then I'm going to throw a short screen up at the end so we can go over this in total details. Energy costs for the Bolt EUV for 8,588 miles was about $752.22. That is the DC fast charge costs that I have spent over the entire time I've owned the vehicle. While home charging accounts for 41,412 miles, and those total expenses were only $990.85. And for full disclosure, I do get a discounted electrical rate from Duke Energy because I am a subscriber to their solar program. So the total energy costs for the entire 50,000 plus miles have been $1,741.07. My total maintenance costs for the Bolt EUV, including new tires, a new battery, that is a 12-volt battery, and all of the other things that I've had done to the vehicle, including an inspection and coolant replacement back in October, have come to $2,256.46. And that includes everything, including tire rotation and balances, inspections, a new cabin air filter, new tires, front end alignment, inspection and coolant replacement for all of the coolant loops, and most importantly, the new 12-volt battery and the OnStar telematics control unit that I had to have replaced just a couple of weeks ago. $2,256.46. As you may or may not know, up until August of this year, my wife drove a 2016 Honda Accord. And over a 50,000 mile period,
she spent $1,844.25 for roughly the same maintenance. All the tire rotations, the oil changes, new tires, new battery that I had to replace just before we got rid of the vehicle, and just the normal maintenance. Where her expenses really outshine the Bolt EUV was the fact that she had to put 1,818.2 gallons of gasoline in her car over that 50,000 mile period. At an average price of $3.35 per gallon, that is $6,100.91. So well more than 3 times the expense of the Bolt EUV in terms of energy to make the car move forward. Now let's review these 50,000 mile operating costs side by side for the two cars. Again, energy for the Bolt, that's electricity, $1,741.07. For the Accord, $6,100.91. Maintenance costs were slightly higher for the Bolt, and I blame that cost primarily on the failure of the OnStar module, the telematics control unit. But now let's look at the line called total. $3,997.53 for the Bolt, $7,945.16 for the Accord. Even with the failure of the OnStar module, the Bolt was half the cost of the Accord for 50,000 miles. And what was going wrong with the Accord when we sold it? It was having a problem with the infotainment screen right in the center. It was starting to lock up and not work properly. I had that unit priced for $1,239. We were about to have that replaced when I surprised my wife with a Hyundai Ioniq 5. And we have not looked back since. So let's summarize this 50,000 mile operating costs in a very succinct manner. If you still think that an ICE car is less expensive because they don't use a lithium-ion battery, then I suggest you put your mind around the fact that a battery electric vehicle does not need a battery every 100,000 miles like you've been led to believe by the media. It's most likely 300,000 miles or more. And by the time my Bolt EUV needs a battery, it's $15,000 today and the price is dropping. You will have pumped over $20,000 worth of gasoline into your car and spent an additional $5,000 in oil changes and other engine maintenance. And you will also need a new engine, which will likely cost you an additional $5,000 to $7,500. So explain to me which is less expensive to operate, a battery electric vehicle or an internal combustion engine. The answer is simple. All you have to do is do the basic math. Okay, let's do a real short summary of all the accessories and upgrades that I've done to the vehicle. I'm going to start out with the floor mats, the front and rear floor mats that I installed less than a week after I got the car. These were the Max Piter units. The cargo mat I got from the General Motors dealership for free, so I put that back in the cargo area. Some of the other interior features that I've upgraded, I put a trash can in. There's a center console armrest organizer. There's a center console lower organizer. I've added a car seat, a back pillow for the passengers. The electronic things that I've upgraded include the OBD2 device, dash camera, and of course the A to Z Tesla NACS adapter for DC fast charge. That's going to be a shared unit between both vehicles. Whichever car is traveling will have that unit in the car. All total, I've wrapped up about $600 in accessories, and that does include the A to Z adapter. I'm going to take you through some of the accessories. Ones that I did not mention earlier are these cup holders. I did mention the mats, and you can see they're very dirty right now, but I just finished a trip. So they're going to be dirty, and that's just going to be the way it is until I have time to clean my car out again. Here are the mats in the rear of the car. I mentioned a few other things in this video, like this pillow that I bought, this nice little trash can over here, the child car seat there with Minnie in it, another little neck pillow during the hot summer months. I have these very thick quilted window shades,
And let me tell you something, those are nice because they reduce the heat inside the car by 20 degrees Fahrenheit, and yes, I've tested it. Then we'll talk about the Chevrolet mat that we have in the back of the car. Basically, when I bought the car, I got enough points that I was able to buy this mat with those points. I talked a little bit about the Tesla DC adapter for the Tesla NACS J3400 to CCS1. This is for DC fast charging. I also have one that is strictly for AC charging, Tesla to J1772. Use that at places where there are destination chargers. There's plenty of storage underneath what you're looking at here, and you can see that it's full of stuff, and I keep it full. Again, the car is very dirty after just completing the trip to North Carolina and back. I haven't had time to wash it. All right, so let me move to the front of the car. We're going to sit down in the car seat here. I did not mention also that there's a screen protector on my touch screen here. Yes, it is smudged up, but that's okay. Easy to clean. This is my VPeak OBD2 port reader, and it plugs in literally right here. And you can see how easy it is to get plugged in. It's right there. Little blue lights on. I only use that when I'm on road trips or when I'm charging deep at a DC fast charger somewhere, and I want to know what's going on with the battery and each of the individual cells. Something that I have not mentioned, but I want to mention that now, is I keep my registration and my vehicle registration and insurance card in a little pouch. But I also keep something else in there that's extremely important, and that is RFID cards for various types of EV chargers around. I have this one, it's EV Connect. Looks like that on one side. I have a Blink card. I have an EV Go card. It looks like that on the reverse side. I have this one, which happens to be Shell Recharge. Even though there are not any in my area, I have one for Francis Energy. And it looks like this. Tells you exactly what to do. Plug in your vehicle, tap this card, and charge on. And finally, the most important one that I have is this one, ChargePoint. Because charging at a ChargePoint station with one of these RFID cards is probably in the neighborhood of 10 times easier than it would be to charge with your phone and tapping your phone. Let's talk about this little book here. This is my registration and insurance card book. I have my registration and insurance cards in it along with the RFID cards, and I just keep that in my car at all times. The last thing that I'm going to mention is my Viofo dash camera, and I'll put some footage from that camera up on the screen now so you can look at it. And we'll call that finished with the review of all the accessories and things and modifications that I've done to the car.
And now we come to one of my favorite parts of the video. We call it the good, the bad, and the ugly. Let's talk about the good. The good thing is the battery is still running at about 97% of its original capacity. This means I retain about 240 miles of the original 247-mile range that the car was advertised to come with. But keep in mind, an electric vehicle is no different than an internal combustion engine vehicle. If you're driving faster, you're going to get less range. If it is cold outside, you're going to get less range, just like you get lower gas mileage in the cold. If it is raining and the roads are wet, you're going to get less range, just like you get lower gas mileage in a car. All of the laws of physics associated with range and gas mileage still apply. But the good thing is I have only lost about 3% of the battery capacity. And as with all battery electric vehicles, the amount of range I lose will taper off over time. So by the time I hit about 100,000 miles, I should have only lost about 5% of the capacity. And by 200,000 miles, maybe 7 to 10%. Be sure to stop back, because I am going to measure this in detail at 100,000 miles. More of the good is that the fit and finish, the mechanical structure of this vehicle is incredible. 50,000 miles, no rattles, no squeaks, no fitment problems with any of the panels. It is in pristine condition. And the paint is holding up well despite the abuse that it gets going up and down I-4. But now let's go to the bad. And the bad and the ugly in this case are going to go hand in hand, like fish and chips, like Jack and Jill. The bad thing happens to focus on the telematics control unit, the OnStar module that I just had fail. It failed at 47,000 miles, and that is unacceptable. And I'm going to say something that may be kind of funny to some of you, and some of you will not understand. I call this the Gold Star car. Gold Star was a company that became LG in the 1980s. The module that failed was LG, but it was not made in Korea like most LG components are. This particular component that failed was made by LG in Vietnam. And that leads me straight into the ugly. The bad thing is that it failed in less than 50,000 miles. The ugly thing is that it cost like rip to have it replaced. I really hope someone from General Motors is listening to this, because I'm going to throw up on the screen the cost of this component. And it was under $120 should I have been able to order it myself, which I could not. The suggested retail price, the MSRP, is $181.60, and I could have bought it at a discounted price of $119.86. But no, General Motors convolutes this process. They do not allow the direct sale of this component to the person who owns the car. Instead, you have to go to a dealership who has to buy this from a distribution warehouse who marks it up past the full manufactured suggested retail price, and then the dealership again marks it up with a 25% cost markup. And then you have to add the cost of 3 hours labor to remove and replace this component. So for a $120 part, I wound up paying over $900 to have it replaced. And if you're listening, my friends at General Motors, that is criminal. That is purely criminal behavior. It is bad that the component failed in under 50,000 miles. It is ugly that you want to charge 9 times what the part cost to have it installed in a car as a replacement. So now that we're done talking about the good, the bad, and the ugly, let's talk about what's the future for my Bolt EUV. Well, here's the future, folks. I plan on doing more content. I plan on doing more trips. And I plan on reporting more on the health of this vehicle and the cost that it takes to maintain it over the course of its life. At the current rate of mileage, I should go over 100,000 miles sometime in late 2026, between August and December of 2026. That's the best I can tell right now. At that point in time, I'm going to do a deep dive into the battery health and the battery management system to figure out exactly what the total true kilowatts left in that battery are. Sometime over the next few months, I'm going to do that in the 50 to 60,000 mile range just for my own edification, and I'll share that with you if it reveals anything significant. Other than those things, I'm just going to drive it as I would any other daily driver. And I'll be able to share with you things that happen along the way from point A to point B. So that's the future of my Bolt EUV. Stick around. The car's barely broken in.
Okay guys, that's going to do it for today. I appreciate your time and trust, and I hope you do subscribe, share, comment, and like this video. Share it with as many people as you possibly can. If you are a Bolt owner, I would love to hear your comments below, and I'll respond to them. If you have story ideas, I will respond to those as well. I've done about as many videos as I possibly can on this car, but I'm not finished yet. And I'm going to start doing some more detailed videos on the comparison between this vehicle and my wife's Hyundai Ioniq 5. I'll have those videos out over the holiday period, and I'll look forward to sharing those with you. So I'll see you all real soon, or somewhere along the route from point A to point B. Take it easy, everybody.